Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Simon from Siphon TCG, and we're coming at you with the Brair episode of our Road to Nationals A to Z series, showing you guys my deck list for every hero for the Road to Nationals season. This is episode 4. I'm glad you guys are here for this 4th episode, and today we have the hero that. The fact that she has an LL just makes me sad. And not because I want Rosetta Thorn banned like everyone else, like, people need to stop being weird. Brair was the first hero I ever built and took serious, and I fell in love with this hero. And I've talked about several times the reason I stopped playing this hero was just because I let people talk me out of playing this hero and sell out of the deck, and to this day it is my biggest mistake. It's to the point where, as much as I would love to buy back into the hero, um, it's just the cost to longevity is it just doesn't equate. I believe someone did the math. I don't know if it was correct. I'm just going to take it for a word for it. If she just wins 6 Archeans, she gets LL'd. Which I can see her winning just 6. I can definitely see her win 6, especially in maybe smaller places that don't have like a high amount of like Lexi, Odoms, and Dromais that kind of dominate the field. So I do think for not outside meta, I did agree predict that she wouldn't LL. But for Archean season, I definitely think she'll probably LL. If she doesn't, that's cool. But I just can't see her surviving with only needing to win 6. She had to win like 16, then a different story. 10, like, but 6, come on. But Brair, we have our Brair. And so this is a very solid, clean list. Uh, I know there was a few people that played this list at the Pro Tour. And when I seen this list, and I was like, this is a very nice list. It's not clean in the instance that like, oh, it's 3 of us of every single card. No, it's just clean as like every single card has a very defined role, and it doesn't show it very well. I do believe the only change that I made to this original list was I put Captain's Call instead of Nimblism. The reason to run Nimblism over Captain's Call is if you have specific effects that you want to leak over damage that have on hits, like if you're on a Force of Nature turn, Nimblism is just better than Captain's Call because you're giving yourself a higher likelihood to hit. Give and Take comes in for 6 instead of 5, which with some people running some 2 blocks and like certain builds, like every point matters. But I just like my cards to be very diverse. Being flexible is probably the most important thing, and this is one of the most flexible cards in the game. But let's go to the list. Starting with the headpiece, Crown of Providence. Crown of Providence is absolutely mint when it comes to headpieces, allowing us to have CNC protection, allows us to filter, and just the 2 block just brings our effective life total up. Friend Knife, Spring Tunic, best chest piece in the game. You heard me say this almost every single video. You need a very, 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 very good reason not to be running this card in almost every single deck. Grasp of the Arcanite. Solid. Allows you to have a mana sink if you end up having too many blues. Also just gives your blue some more relevance if you just have a bunch of 0 costs in your attack. Also blocks a total of 3. Pretty good. Rosetta Thorn, in condition for the best weapon ever printed. A lot of people have been wanting this card banned for a while, but thankfully LSS has been smart and not banned this. Because if you didn't ban this, I would literally never LO. But just the split damage every turn you can turn this on is pretty good, and it allows, if people don't bring AB2 into you, which a lot of times they won't, this gives you an inevitable kill if you can grind the game down to a very small life total. Snapdragon Scalers just giving you the extra punch to go wider on a certain turn. Very solid. Going on to the 60 card main deck, we'll start with 3 Bama Spark. 3 Bama Spark allows you to do, again, split damage, getting the 1 Arcane, then the +3 if you were able to fuse it. Very solid. Blocks for 3 on an embodiment turn, so it is on right there. Again, Captain's Call. This is mostly for like CNC plays and stuff like that, being able to give CNC go again, which I think is very, very powerful. Alternatively, it can give like Enlightened Strike, so you can go like Enlightened Strike draw card, but like you can do go again on the Captain's Call without needing to break your snaps. On your Choma Heroic turns, you can give a card that doesn't have natural go again, and make your turn go just even wider with very important cards. Speaking of the Choma Heroic, this can literally this can literally equate to 9 damage a turn. depending on how you draw. And a lot of times, with how this deck will draw, you can easily make this like an 18-point card over 2 turns. You do need a density of Earth cards to make this work and get this to stick. Because I don't really think that Channel My Heroic being a Nimblism 4, 5, and 6 is that good. But being able to play your turns around, getting this to resolve and stay is very amazing. But I think there is one big misconception, and like I always wanted to make a video on this, really talk about this, but I'll talk about this briefly here. I do think people overrate this card, not in the sense of its power level. People know how powerful this card is. That's not the problem. People think this is the only way Brair wins. If you actually talk to a person that's played Brair a long time, they will tell you there are lots of games where they never resolve a Trauma Heroic. Or maybe they have it for 1 turn. Honestly. People only think you win because you just had Trauma Heroic for like 5 turns. Like I remember like the first event I ever played Brair. The whole talk of the tournament was Brair just played Trauma Heroic turn 1, then turn 2 played another Trauma Heroic, and I just died, and they played a Force of Nature. I'm like, yeah, that's cool and all. But a Brair can still be like, um, let's go here. Let's go. We'll make a Rune Chance and send Swarming Glueville for 3 and 1. Okay, that did good. Ravenous Rabble for go again. So far we've presented 8. And you know, why not we just go East Strike for at 7? That's a 15 card swing. Or you can do 13 if you want to do East Strike draw a card. Or if you Tunic up, you can do East Strike like go again. If you maybe had like a non-attack earlier in that turn, like maybe coming from Arsenal or something, and now your Ethorn turned on, that's still a really good turn. That's still a fantastic turn. But people think, yep, Brair just had to get Shaman Heroic out. No, mind you, Shaman Heroic can lead to a lot of blowouts, but again, it's not the only way that Brair wins. We're running red and blue Orthlord Surge. This has become one of my favorite cards in Brair. This Orthlord Surge being a +5, just literally off of a 4-card hand. If your hand is just like Orthlord Surge, a blue, and Lightning Strike, this is Lightning Strike for 12 is pretty solid because it's almost guaranteed to get an embodiment 90% of the time, or you can even go East Strike, draw a card. So like now it's a 10-point card. It's a 10-point snatch that doesn't need to hit to get a card. And dear God, if I had go again for some other ungodly reason, it's just way too much value. Overlord Sword's really good. The only downside, it blocks for 2, but it blocks for 3 on an embodiment turn. Speaking of East Strike being one of the most diverse cards in the whole entire game, being able to draw a card, get +2, or have go again. It means almost every single mode is relevant at some point and is correct to do at some point. You're never like, I'll draw an East Strike, I can't do anything with it. It's very good to Arsenal. It's probably best in the Arsenal to present yourself from flooding from one certain kind. So, for example, if you Arsenal it, then you draw 4 attacks. A lot of times you can't do a lot with that hand, but then you can go East Strike, go again, throw a relevant attack, throw another attack in the Arsenal, and you can keep going. Vice versa, if it's East Strike and then a bunch of non-attacks, you can play the non-attacks, play East Strike, maybe draw a card to get an attack and go deeper, or just go East Strike for 7, Arsenal on a non-attack, draw your attacks next turn, and keep going. Exude Confidence. I go back and forth with this at 3. Right now, I see a lot of people doing it at 2, and I do think that's probably correct. I do think it's probably correct because you want to see it enough to where it's relevant into the matchups you're playing it in, but it's not relevant enough as a card individually to where you want to slam 3. Because most of the time, it's just a 0 for 4 or a 0 for 7. Being able to shut off people from interacting with you while this is out is pretty good. You force them to do stuff before they want to. And unlike things like Heart of Ice, that tries to do the exact same thing, you could Heart of Ice someone and not do anything else, and then you're like, well, I kind of wasted a turn. You're Heart of Icing someone while actually sending something they have to do something about. Heart of Ice is just there. And Heart of Ice just makes it harder for them to do it. They can still do it. This just says you can't do it. Right? Give and Take, powerful card that came from Outsiders. What Give and Take does, if people don't know, whenever Give and Take is defended by an action card, you may put an action card with cost Less than given takes power from the graveyard to the top of your deck. Now keep in mind, yes, you can get Shema Heroic, but all the times that's not the only thing you're getting. You can get many, many things. Your world is your oyster with this card. But I will say this, I wouldn't expect this to get blocked all too often, to be honest, because people aren't going to want to give you the extra value. So if you can put them in a pinch where they have to block this, like on like a Force of Nature turn or something, it's just insane. But like individually, the card's like okay. Infectious Host, one of the ways you can actually fight and hedge against the Rangers right now, because all the tokens that they're giving you trying to disrupt you, you can give them right back. And then it's just a 0 for 4, like I said, with the downside of being a 2 block. Lightning Surge. Make sure Arsenal goes zoom, zoom. Like I said, this just leads you to having very wide turns. And that's pretty much it. It's just probably one of, if not the best Arsenal target that you have in the deck, besides like maybe E-Strike. Ravenous Travel, the classic 0 for 2 go again. This is probably your best 0 for 2 in the whole entire game. I'm making a joke, guys. So Ravenous Travel is obviously a 5 cost, but people know me, I always flip over a blue. I could have one blue in the deck and always flip it over, even if it's in the graveyard. It's just a solid card to be able to go wide with your attacks. Make sure you can use your whole entire hand. This also can give you information if you have other cards in hand on how you could arsenal. Like if you have an attack and a non-attack and you flip for a non-attack, you're most likely to arsenal the attack just so you don't get flooded with just non-attacks. Not that it horribly matters, because as long as you have the two anyway, it can maybe prevent you from overextending with something and then possibly getting blown up by drawing a bad set of hands next turn. Very, very diverse card, even though it doesn't look like that on the surface. Scarf of Scar, you must use this promo or not to play a Scarf of Scar. So I want to point that out there. It's mostly just really good in your aggro matchups. Like in your mid range and your Guardian matchup, it doesn't actually get used a ton, because a lot of times you're just stripping like against Odom, you're stripping his hand like a lot, and he'll just like send hammer. Like he's not actually like pounding you at any point. Pause. So you won't really get the go again. But Naga Mirrors, a lot of times you can get the go again because it's just a knife fight. Snatch, one of the best cards in the game. One hit draw card, comes in at a breakpoint. Except the only downside, it blocks for 2. With Snapdragon Scalers up or Natural Go again, this becomes one of the most powerful cards in the game. Sonar Arcanics, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I did my best to take this card out of the deck. I just could not find a card that didn't hurt the ratios of this deck enough. And I couldn't find a card that was just consistently more powerful than this. I am just very prone to bricking with this card, I'm going to be honest. It would be disingenuous for me to say I brick with this card every single time. Okay, dear God, I brick with it a lot. And it pains me so much. I hate it. But at the end of the day, it's half an embodiment. It can fix a bad pitch stack. And you just have to run it, I think. I just think you probably have to run it. It's just probably individually too powerful to not run. But the moment I can take this card out, trust me, I will. Swarming Gloomville. Swarming Gloomville is a very diverse card, because a lot of times this will just have natural go again with how your play patterns end up lining up. How it will have go again is if you've created one or more auras, it gains go again. So if you create a bottom of Earth, it has go again. If you create a bottom of Lightning, it has super go again. If you created a rune channel of Grass, this has go again. If you've channeled my Heroic, it has go again. So super duper powerful, man. One of the more interesting additions, and this is a card I've taken out in my personal builds a lot, and then added it back in, and then taken out and added it back in, has been Pulse of Canhold, just giving you some more density of cards, both Earth and Lightning. If like Lightning cards ever do become relevant in Brair, again, this is a card that does really, really good. But obviously, this is most for getting like things like Channel back, Force of Nature back, and stuff. But like I think the biggest thing about this is it's half an embodiment and it blocks 4 on an embodiment turn, which is super powerful. And it's a yellow, so at the end of the day, like this can be a little bit more of a resource card if needed. Going into the blues, we have Blue Autumn's Touch, Blue Force of Nature. Key thing about this is another card that blocks for 4 in an embodiment turn. I don't think people block with this card enough just because they say, I need to play this card. But just giving yourself more, like, built-in D-reacts without having to actually run as many D-reacts, I think is super powerful. But obviously, if you're able to fuse with this, especially on a channel turn, you don't win the game on the spot, but like you will easily win like the next 2 turn cycle and it's not close. Blue Sift, it's another 4 block. So tomorrow, just be able to recur things again, like channel, like force, and stuff like that, and recur your pulse. I can recur those cards that block for 4. At the end of the day, and like I said, this is one of your best arsenal targets, because even off Alpha Tunic, you can play this, recur something, draw a card, really powerful. Blocks for 3 on a embodiment turn, so it becomes on rate. This round's with me, we only have 1 in the deck. This is because it does block 4. And one of the really cool things about this, if you're going first with Brair, and you have natural Goga in your hand, like you have like Ravenous Rabble, being able to go like Ravenous Rabble, your opponent will block with a card, you can be like, cool, this round's on me. And they'll look at you and just get really sad because they realize they just messed up. And how they thought they were getting a filter, they got the filter anyway, but now they're playing their first turn with this round's in effect. And it was no opportunity cost on us because we got to get a card. They got to get a card back, but they don't get like an additional card. They still just have their 4-card hand that they would have had, but now their turn just is worse. Tunnel of Harvest, probably one of the more high rolly cards in this deck, is because it does require you to arsenal to play it. And oh god, so people are calling this card card advantage. I have to explain to you guys what card advantage is. So let's say you start off with 0 cards, and for some magical reason you draw 1 card. Well, you're up a card, that's card advantage. Well, let's say you have 0 cards. Well, sorry, let's say you have 1 card, and you play that card that says you draw a card. Well, now you're back on 1. That's card neutral. Let's say you had 2 cards. You use one of those cards to draw 1 card. You're back at 2. Card neutral. You have 2 cards. You play 1 card, you draw 2. Well, now you're up a card, because now you have 3 cards. That's card advantage. Tunnel of Harvest is not card advantage, it's card neutral. You have a card in arsenal, you have Tunnel of Harvest, you have the blue thing that you pitch. That's a total of 3 cards to draw 3 cards. Please, for the love of God, stop doing math wrong. Stop doing math wrong. But, yeah, Tunnel of Harvest may just draw 3 cards. It's very, very explosive. It can lead to very, very swingy turns. It's also a card that's not great because, again, it blocks 2. It does block 3 on the monument turn, so it becomes one right there. But without an arsenal, this card just reads Titanium Bauble with only block 2. Going to the sideboard, we have 3 Come to Fight. Come to Fight is a block 4 that allows you to pump for 3 with Go again, so it's half an embodiment. Because Rangers are all the hype, CNCs are just a must requirement, not that it wasn't before. But the fact that it is just so powerful now is also one of the reasons that we have Come to Fight instead of Nimblism, just because CNC just became a little more important in my opinion, being able to really go big with certain turns with CNC against the Rangers, against Oldham. I think is really important right now in this meta. We are on the Rites of Replenishment package. This build originally had the Evergreen package, but the issue with the Evergreen package is you're relying completely on 2 blocks. Sotomorrow, 2 block. Evergreen, 2 block. It's higher damage turn to turn, but you're sacrificing your block value to do so, and I just don't really think sacrificing your block value is enough. But also, if you just pitch stack properly, and you can get yourself to a point where you can rise to replenish like every turn or every other turn, you're perfectly fine. And you can start fatiguing your Odoms and your Dromize. We're on 3 Sync Below. Ranger is just everywhere. You have to be able to fight against Ranger. Sync Below is one of the best ways to fight against Ranger just because of the breakpoints they can do. Especially with a deck like Azalea being able to dominate big arrows, this allowing us to keep our life total a little bit higher so we have the room to pivot later on. On 1 Immovable, I was on 3 originally, but a lot of lists I see were running 1, and I disagreed. But I do think that they were correct and I was wrong. I think just, again, with how Runeblade is, and your ratios are super, super important. adding cards that hurt your ratio, even if it's just one card, even if it's just one card different from the perfect ratio that you made, can throw off your whole entire count. And you're already prone to bricking enough with Rimblade. Making it worse is just setting yourself up for failure. And also, like, if you ever draw two in one hand, it is just dog ass. We are on AB1, just in case we find another Runeblade. We're more likely to find another Runeblade than we are to fight a wizard. I've talked about this in the last few videos. Until a wizard comes back to being prevalent, lots of arcane barrier is not really needed. Same thing with like shock charmers. Like shock charmers can actually also be for Runeblade. Weirdly enough, people don't remember that. If you want to keep cards in hand, you can actually shock charmers. There was Athorn on like a very key turn, like late game when you guys are both under 10, to keep your life total at a certain threshold, because we both know how dangerous Athorn is at the late game, and allowing you to do so is really important. But also, if you do happen to run to a wizard, you will have AB1 and Spell Void 2, so on a very important turn from like Kano, for example, you have the Spell Void to make the Earth Wildfire 3 instead of 6, or 2 instead of 5, which drastically changes their turn. You can negate like 15 damage from their turn just with like shock charmers alone. Slightly insane. That's gonna be the video, guys. There will be a sideboard guide attached to this. Thank you to the big Crawford boy for making the sideboard for this. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you guys like, subscribe, comment down below what you guys want to see next. It's been your boy Siphon from Siphon TCG. Please help Brair low. Peace.